Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Hey! Merry friggin' Christmas. Merry friggin' Christmas, Bolt fam. It's the director. You guys are probably watching this some point Christmas week, Christmas Eve. Happy holidays to everybody, man. Dude, around these times of year, you know, times of reflection, I often like to shout you guys out, man. Bolt fam, thank you for giving me a platform to express my passion and love for this team. I'm still befuddled that, you know, several thousand of y'all show up every week to hear my thoughts on the whole thing, but thank you for allowing me to do what I do with so much love and passion. It really, really does mean a lot to me and my family, guys. Thank you so much. We got a football game to talk about. Now, first off, I'm not going to be present for this one, guys. I'm going to be out of town. I made all these arrangements, right, in terms of my travel to go see my wife's family in Alabama this year. I made an arrangement to leave a little later than my family so I could be present for the Broncos game, which I thought was going to be being played today, where I'm recording this on Sunday the 22nd. That ended up getting flexed to Thursday, okay? And then I made arrangements to be back the day before this game, the Patriots game, which ended up getting flexed to Saturday. So I'm going to be on a plane that day. I will not be able to go live for this one. It's a huge bummer, but I'm still going to be on Twitter trying to catch game. I think me and my wife are going to try hitting up the airport a little bit early to at least watch the first part of this game to enjoy with you guys. But till then, man, we got some business to go over in terms of this game, what to expect, how's the playoffs looking, yada, yada, yada. Again, I can't tell the future because, again, the Patriots are actually playing right now as I'm recording this video, but I think there's a lot of a sample size already to go over in the season with the Patriots and what to expect in that one, so it should be a good one. Before we do kick things off, man, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Newcomers, take advantage of the Patrick Mahomes. I think this is the Christmas Day special, is it not? Guys, there's only 2 games left in the season. Breaks my heart. If you guys have not yet had the joy and pleasure of participating in an Underdog fantasy season, I implore you. This is like a good wine to a good steak, to already great steak, man. I would absolutely recommend enjoying the game, in my opinion, the way it was meant to be played. Before we do kick things off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Your Chargers at New England Patriots. This is going to be week 17, right? Yeah, week 17 game preview. Man, I always get to this point of the year and get a little depressed, right? I get a little depressed because I'm thinking, dude, we got 2 more weeks. Of course, this year I'm especially excited, though, because, of course, we got playoffs and stuff to think about. But this season really did fly by. I would say very exciting year. It exceeded even my expectations to this point, and it ain't over yet. If we could just, chef kiss this finale of a Raiders beatdown in Week 18, it would make me that much happier. Now, quickly, of course, before every game, we like to go over the injury report. Well, we don't have that this week, of course. Me recording this game the football Sunday before this game is kicking off, we don't really have any information. So all I'm going to say is that, based on the injury report last week, I don't know. It feels like some of these guys that maybe missed the game, like Elijah Molden, Cam Hart, Will Dissly, maybe they have a shot at coming back. I know there's a rumor floating around that J.K. Dobbins could indeed see his return this upcoming week. We're definitely going to talk about what that would mean to this game later on in the video. But keep an eye out on Twitter. I'll likely be retweeting some stuff, keeping an eye on availability for this game. Now, the big question I'm going to be getting, the big question I have been getting all season long, Director, what the playoffs look like. What the playoffs looking like? Well, I'll tell you what, it's changed a little bit since this morning. Now, this morning, the day I'm recording this video, we wanted a couple of things to happen in order for the Chargers to clinch a playoff berth. That was for the Colts to get beaten by the Tennessee Titans, and then there was something else, but that didn't happen. So already, it's not going to be the case. The Chargers will need to, in short term, win next week, or I should say this game with the Patriots. And then just a couple other things need to happen throughout the league to clinch that playoff spot. But right now, I'm going to tell you, the Chargers do have a 96% chance and probability of making the postseason. I would say it's more than likely. It would have to be a stretch of things to happen for the Chargers not to make it. They would have to lose out, number one. And again, we're playing the Patriots and the Raiders. And there would have to be basically teams winning out. I think the biggest threat right now being the Colts, maybe the Bengals if they can take down. I think it would be the Broncos this upcoming week too as well, right? Are they playing the Browns today? I don't know. But either way, the way it currently looks, the Chargers are ahead of the Broncos in the hunt for the 6th seed. It's looking more and more likely the Chargers will retain the 6th seed going forward, which does put an interesting scenario in front of us because as of right now, if you're taking a look at playoff seeding, the Chargers would be facing off versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, which honestly would not be a bad matchup. It's one that I hear a lot that the Chargers and its fans probably want for this scenario. Probably, again, the Steelers having a very, very good defense, but maybe one of the teams that you're looking to go up against to help improve your odds of actually winning because, going up against the Bills is probably pretty tough. The Ravens have already taken us down pretty harshly this year. Of course, the Steelers did too, but it's a lot. There's a lot to take in consideration. What is it actually going to be looking like, though? If you take a look at the predicting machine here, okay, this is something I used to do a couple years back, last time the Chargers were in the playoff hunt in that kind of picture here. We're going to do this together to kind of show you guys where I actually think the Chargers are going to seed and what the seeding is going to look like in terms of when the Chargers play in the postseason, who they're going to be facing off against, okay? So really quickly to go through this, all these games at the top have already finished today. Let's see how the rest of this is going to shape out. I think we're going to go Minnesota, of course the Bills, but right now, guys, the Bills trailing as I'm recording this video, the Patriots 14-7. Of course, I think they're still going to come out and win that game. We're going to go Jags here, maybe Niners in this game, Bucks and Green Bay Packers. Let's move on to Week 17. Of course, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this one. Let's go Ravens, Seahawks, us in this matchup. Spoiler alert for the score prediction. Let's go. I think the Broncos are going to beat the Bengals, if I'm being honest, in that matchup. For whatever, the Rams, this is going to be that division matchup. Let's go Bills, Titans, Bucks, Packers, Saints, Colts, Dolphins, Eagles, Commanders, and Lions. And then lastly, in Week 18, we're going to go Texans, let's see, Falcons, Bucks, Seattle, Buffalo, Miami, Baltimore. This one could get interesting, but we're still going to go Steelers. Colts, which interestingly enough, I think that's going to put them in the playoff hunt once again, a little bit, improving their odds, we'll say. We'll go Chiefs, us, Commanders, Eagles, Lions, Packers, and Cardinals. We'll go Niners right here. So this is actually where we think we're going to end up, and this is something I actually posted about not too long ago. The Chargers in this playoff scenario will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens from the 6th seed. So Chargers clinching the 6th seed at 11-6, mind you. What an awesome first season for Jim Harbaugh that would be. Double-digit wins is already extremely impressive. 11-6 would be that much sweeter. Then you got yourself the Baltimore Ravens, who we've already played, like I said before. What do you guys feel about this? Right now, most seeding projections have the Chargers rematching with the Baltimore Ravens in that playoff game. Harbaugh the sequel. How y'all feeling about that? Honestly, I'm intrigued. I think this is one of those situations where it's like, this is good for the team. You want to take what was a sinking feeling, a disappointing feeling, and honestly a point in the season where I think a lot of things kind of fell off the rails a little bit. The Chargers, they had some momentum. They had some success. They were really moving and grooving. And this game, which I actually attended in person, some things happened. The defense got exposed. We lost J.K. Dobbins, and the offense didn't feel the same. And, it was, regardless, it was a very fun experience and a good game. The Chargers fell short. And now here is your first opportunity to take something where you stumbled and find redemption. You know what I mean? And for football players, for sports, for athletes, for anybody, I think that's a pretty awesome opportunity. And I feel like Jim Harbaugh, again, facing off against his brother, like, how many times would that be in the NFL right now, especially, considering the Super Bowl matchup? I think this is one Jim's really going to want. I think this would be a very cool narrative game. It'd be one where it's like, man, I would be tempted, dude, to try and catch this one in person. Obviously, we're going to be here streaming it. But a very, very cool, I would say I'm about it. I definitely want to see how this Chargers team looks with a second chance, maybe with a little bit more momentum, a little bit more understanding of the team to take on the Harbaugh 2 one more time. Win or loss, I think it would be a spectacular season. But I think the Chargers, would stand a chance here. I really do. And it's one that I think would make a very interesting story, narrative, fun viewing experience for Chargers fans. So that's kind of where we're heading right now with the playoffs. Now, getting into what the Patriots specifically are going to be offering us in terms of opponent this upcoming Sunday. They are not great. I'm trying to see here, I'm kind of glad that we had all the playoff stuff and the injuries and all that kind of stuff to talk about because, the Patriots, it's cut and dry, are just not a good team this year. And we all know why, right? Ever since Brady left, it's been kind of, a downway spiral. Bill Belichick making his, exit last season certainly didn't help things. And since then, they're kind of trying to reinvent themselves. And is it Gerard Mayo? He's the new head coach, right? Cool story, right? And in some way, I'm intrigued and I'm interested to see where he takes this team. Kind of feels similar to what the Raiders are doing. With Antonio Pierce, but this season's not it. The Patriots just don't look legitimate this year. Of course, I'm sure they're already eliminated from the playoffs. They have not been a good football team. Fundamentally, they've really struggled. The roster's kind of all over the place where, you're adopting a Bill Belichick roster. That's kind of to be expected at this point. But 3 wins on the season is certainly going to reflect on the kind of year that they've had. And those 3 wins have come from struggling teams in the NFL this season, be it Cincinnati, the New York Jets, another one, and Chicago. Okay, and those wins, they're a spark of, what may come to be with Drake May and this team in the future. But right now, it's just not looking good, especially taking a look at the most recent games. Let's take a look at the last month of Patriots football. Their defense has given up almost 30 points per game on average the last 4 games in the last month of football. That's not bad. That's got to be ranked, close to the bottom. Their offense has produced just around 19 points per game on average in the last month, the last 4 games, which is also, not great, especially considering the point differential there. All right, that speaks to the losses. And what even further makes that number worse, the 19 points per game, are the opponents that they've been going up against. The Rams have a very bad defense. The Dolphins, who don't have a great defense this year. They had one last year. This year, I don't know what's going on. The Colts defense, Cardinals defense, not good. So the defenses they're going up against, not great. Only averaging 19 points. Of course, the Chargers did that a little earlier in the season as well, but this is kind of indicative of what we're dealing with in terms of the Patriots as an opponent. Now, nothing is certain, but on paper, at least, this is one of the softest matchups we're going to get all year long. Never take any Sunday for granted, any game for granted, any NFL opponent for granted. Anything could happen. Who knows what's going to happen in this game where they're playing the Buffalo Bills. But again, on paper, this team has struggled. They look like they're going to continue to struggle. And when matched up versus the Chargers, it's going to be easy to see why, come that Sunday, the Chargers are heavily favored, in terms of betting favorites. Okay. Now, digging deep into who the Patriots are this season, I don't think you have to dig very deep before you start realizing, where they are versus where they're headed. This segment called May the Force Be With You, Drake May. Okay. I think Drake May could end up being something in the future. And honestly, I don't think that for a rookie season, he's done all that bad. I just think he's been outshined, by other quarterbacks in the class, mainly even guys like, Bo Nix, who we just played last week. He's having a fantastic rookie season. You got the other guys close to the top, and Caleb Williams has been okay, and then Jaden Daniels has been fantastic. Drake May, who's more or less been forced into the lineup, right? It was an injury or something to Brissett that pushed him in. He's been not bad, in my opinion. In terms of success, though, I would say, yeah, you could really view it as up and down, right? Statistically, he's put up some nice games. He can produce, but not without those mistakes. Now, in terms of the good for Drake May, he's had several games with close to or over 300 scrimmage yards because, yeah, he is a dual threat quarterback, right? Those 300-yard games came against Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee, the LA Rams, and Indianapolis, right? So he's had a good string of games where he's looked pretty nice this season. And like I mentioned before, scrimmage yards, he is a dual threat quarterback, so this dude can take off. And that is maybe a little bit concerning for me as a Chargers fan because, yeah, he'll run 5 or 6 times on you. And depending on the opponent, that could be 20 yards, that could be, 100 yards. And the Chargers, at least for the last stretch of I don't know how many years, including this year, even as great as our defense has been, we still sort of struggle versus mobile quarterbacks. And that's something I think that is going to be a little bit tougher for the Chargers to contain this week. But outside of that, man, as good as Drake May has been, the win-loss record, that's going to reflect on how much that matters right now. And how much he still has to go in terms of his progression and his growth in the NFL, because he still is very raw. The big numbers are nice, but he's still a rookie, and he's making mistakes, which are plentiful this season. A lot like we talked about with Bo Nix, who, again, give him credit. He's been great. He did great versus us last week in the first half. A lot of rookie mistakes that game. And you're going to see a lot of rookie mistakes, I would say even more so from Drake May in this game, because he doesn't have the defense that Bo Nix has. He doesn't have some of the weapons that Bo Nix has. The Patriots are more or less, lacking at several positions on offense and defense at this point. So Drake May not positioned quite as well as Bo Nix to find some success. And that's, again, like I said last week with the Broncos, that's where you strike. That's where you get in there, okay? Drake May, he's shown that. Throwing at least one interception every single game for the last month and a half. Isn't that nuts? 6 games straight with at least one interception. He's also taken 13 sacks in the last 4 games alone. Name of the game for this week. Let's get and force Drake May to air it out, because when you put yourselves in that position, the Chargers more than likely are going to punish the young quarterback with a defense that, I'm going to say the defense doesn't look as good. Chargers defense doesn't look as good as it did in the first half of the year, but they still look pretty decent, and especially in terms of takeaways. I feel like the Chargers are very, very likely to force at least one Drake May interception, and not to mention what else they can do in terms of a complete game on Sunday. All right. The one guy I do maybe, kind of squint at a little bit and say, okay, maybe this guy could be a little bit of a problem. Randre Stevenson. Now, Randre Stevenson, I've kept my eye on all year because he's on my fantasy squad in my league of record. What I mean by that is I have several fantasy leagues, one of which I share with you guys, the Bolt fam, who I do think are in the Super Bowl next week, which is exciting. But my big league, the one that's been around for 12 years, I had Randre Stevenson, so I paid very close attention to him all year long, and I was pretty happy with him as a fantasy football owner. He was awesome. He did great. He gave me solid RB2 numbers for a majority of the year. He's good. And he could maybe potentially be a problem in this game, right? He's usually good for around 80 yards, minimum. He's also a very capable receiving back. He'll get a couple of receptions a game as well. Can turn into something if we're not careful. But recently, as a fantasy football Randre Stevenson owner, I will tell you that he has not scored a touchdown in a very long time. So much so that, man, it's starting to hurt. I got knocked out of my playoffs last week, unfortunately. Opponent put up 160 points. What are you supposed to do? But he hadn't scored a touchdown since November 3rd, which is not going to help. Does he score one this week? Possible. Chargers run defense has looked better or worse at times. But this is probably the main focus of the Patriots offense outside of Drake May that I'm most, keeping my eye on. Randre Stevenson, solid running back. Drake May can be a good quarterback, but a lot of it does, depend on the way the game goes, defense, a lot of stuff that, I don't know how much they're going to be able to get going, right? especially for guys like Randre Stevenson. He can be good, sometimes great, but the Chargers defense are likely to limit carries for him. Do we see 20 carries? Possibly. But I think there's a good shot of a number less than that this week versus the Chargers defense. Now, what about the Chargers offense? Well, this is an important game. Man, look at this screenshot, dude. Oh, I love this photo. That was an awesome experience last week watching the Broncos game with you guys. Great Thursday night football game. And it has a lot that kind of, puts writing on the wall for the season a little bit, man, which gets me really, really jacked, really excited. Let's look at it from both sides here for a second, though, before I go down that rabbit hole, okay? Justin Herbert, the Los Angeles Chargers quarterback, who's, I'm going to say, more or less being getting more praise this week with his performance versus the Broncos. If I'm being clear and if I'm being honest and transparent as a Chargers fan, I will admit that despite the awesome performance last week, there can be stretches with Justin Herbert in his game where maybe he does struggle, he does slow down, and those stretches can last 3-4 games sometimes, right? I think the cold streak that he had been on prior to this game started somewhere around the Ravens game, which again I was in attendance for. It was a tough game. We lost J.K. The defense was struggling. It really feels like that game, Justin Herbert, kind of slowed down a little bit. But recently, it feels like he really has found his footing. So as I'm being honest with, Justin Herbert can find a cold streak, I'm going to be completely honest in saying, and you guys Chargers fans know this, he can get on quite a hot streak as well, because when he gets going, he really does get hot. And when he finds a nice stride, and that can last for weeks, sometimes months. Okay? The timing right now is perfect. Okay, going into the last 2 games of the season, of course, we would probably expect with this last performance, got hot versus the Broncos, which, tough defense. Despite that, puts up 34 points with the Chargers, 300 scrimmage yards, again, against a really good Broncos defense. It feels like that spark, that ignition of a Justin Herbert hot streak, it's been ignited, right? And I think it's going to continue in this game. Now, I don't think that Herbert needs like a statistically huge game to beat the Patriots, but you are going to see that fuego, right? That efficiency, those big plays, the things that make Justin Herbert that dude. All right, and you've seen plenty of it this week. He made some ridiculous plays last Thursday. I do expect to see more of that this upcoming Sunday, or such say Saturday. Excuse me, I've been saying Sunday this whole time. Saturday, where we see that, vintage and true to the brand Justin Herbert getting on that hot streak. And again, the reason that the timing is so perfect is that momentum is hitting at just the perfect time, right? You want to take down the Patriots, likely clinch a playoff seed, right? And then you want to go squash the Raiders, right? I can't think of anything more poetic than last season, the disaster that was the 63-21 game, getting Jim Harbaugh, turning the franchise around, and seeing them again last game of the year in 2024 and just squashing the crap out of them with the momentum that's being built starting with the Broncos game. I need to see that happen. I want to squish the Raiders. Now, of course, this momentum is most important after these games, the postseason. And that's why I think a Justin Herbert, signature hot streak is coming at the right time. If Justin Herbert can get hot now, take down the Patriots, squash the Raiders, I think come the postseason, when we're playing what's likely looking like the Ravens or otherwise, that momentum's going to carry and give us a really real chance at taking out a juggernaut team in the postseason. Because, I consider the Ravens very difficult to take down. I consider the Steelers very difficult to take down. Even the Texans, if that ends up happening. Very difficult teams to take down. You need momentum like this. And I'm a huge believer in momentum in sports, in life. And it's something that if we can start gaining right now, starting with the Broncos game, let's do it, right? Speaking of momentum, I think a big part of what you're seeing in success of the Chargers in gaining momentum late in the season has been their passing confidence. All right. Now, I'm going to say this at the top, even though we're seeing another awesome photo from the Thursday night matchup. This segment is mostly for Quinton Johnson, actually. Because I'm going to say this right now, Chargers fans, I get it. There's been even more instances this season where we're kind of like, maybe rolling our eyes or shaking our heads a little bit. Quinton, you got to hold on to that. Quinton, that's a big drop. Quinton, what are we doing? But we would be lying to ourselves if we didn't say also, hey, QJ's turned it around this year. He really has taken what was a very lackluster and disappointing and disastrous rookie season and turned it into, what is it, at least 8 touchdowns this year? 9? I don't even know. It feels like that one season with Mike Williams, right, where he wasn't like crazy producing in terms of yards, but man, this dude was scoring touchdowns. Quinton Johnson, I know he can still be awesome, right? Despite him, showing shades of his rookie year a lot, since I would say the Ravens game being the big one people are going to point out. He did have a drop last week that was pretty atrocious. Like, it's still showing, right? But not nearly as much as last year. And I still believe he's the real deal, right? He just needs added focus and confidence. And this is one of those games that can add that to him, right? Quinton Johnson, let's get that confidence going. Let's get that momentum going. When momentum is being mentioned on this channel, it's for every player, even players that have been struggling, right? The Quinton Johnsons, the Gus Edwardses, right? He's gaining some momentum now. The struggling tight end position is starting to get some momentum. Some of the DBs have been stepping up, right? Like that momentum is for every position, every player on the roster. And I think the passing confidence is going to be especially important going forward. Because you think about, the opponents that the Chargers would be facing in the postseason, you're going to need this desperately. Quinton Johnson is going to be called upon, and he's going to have to catch it. He's going to have to, take it the distance in some instances and be that reliable dude. And that is something that I hope to start, again, accumulating as these games progress. The Broncos game was a great start. QJ did have that drop, but let's keep seeing what we can do in terms of building that momentum. Now, in terms of the passing game, of course, your biggest target right now is the unbelievable rookie sensation in Ladd McConkey. Certainly my draft crush going into the season. I finally did it. I got me a Ladd McConkey jersey. Very overdue, but certainly one that I'm excited for. Certainly going to be a very exciting career to follow. And this year in particular has been unbelievable, and it's going to be etched in Chargers history. It already is. I think he's right now the 3rd Chargers rookie wide receiver in terms of yardage in franchise history. Let's keep feeding Ladd McConkey, man. Matter of fact, he's got 2 games still, and he's only, as of today, 40 yards away from a 1,000-yard rookie season, which is very impressive. Again, he would be, at that point, the 3rd Charger to eclipse 1,000 yards in their rookie year, but he only needs 87 more yards in 2 games to pass Keenan Allen for the most yards all time from a rookie Chargers wide receiver. And these are big numbers, man. These are huge for a rookie. Like, he's in the same ballpark as A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, A.J. Green, of course, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, some of the greats. And I do firmly believe that he's going to end up being a great Charger when looked back on in league history, man, or in franchise history. He's off to a fantastic start. He's everything and more that I could have hoped for from this second round rookie wide receiver, and yeah, it's awesome to see, right? It's awesome to see. Yeah, get that passing game going. Find that groove on the offense where you're like, hey, the Chargers have more or less been discovering themselves in terms of their passing game this year. Who's going to be the number one? Who's the guy? Who's the man? Let's find it this week. Let's feel confident in that this week. Let's get Stone Smart out there. Let's get, Ladd McConkey. Josh Palmer's been stepping up. What's going on with DJ Chark? Let's see what we got there. You know what I mean? Like, let's make sure that when we pass the football, we know someone's going to be open. And we know it's going to move the football. It feels like it's been trending that way. Let's solidify that before going into the postseason when we're really going to need it versus the Ravens or the Steelers or something like that. You're going to need it. Let's make sure that confidence is built. Finally, probably one of the biggest rumors and one of the biggest impacts that could happen in this game. Again, I don't know what's going on yet. I'm recording this the Sunday before the Saturday game for the Chargers. But this is a pretty big rumor. If it ends up being true, it's going to make a big impact for this game. J.K. Dobbins returns. Of course, landing in IR at this point, it would be 4 weeks. He definitely would be eligible to return very soon. The question is, does he return? At this point, when you guys are watching the video, maybe you have a better, understanding of this. Maybe there's more news on it. Just a rumor at this point, but that would be massive. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and I've mentioned this game several times in this video because it's very relevant in this game. J.K. Dobbins felt like a huge part of this offense. And the offense, to me, hasn't felt the same since he went down in the Ravens game. And again, I say this all the time. I had a very clear view of that tackle that resulted in the ankle injury. And I, again, with my own two eyes in person, watched the offense struggle after that. Because J.K., despite going up against some good defenses, had been awesome in this season. Playing 11 games, he was averaging around 7 yards per game. He had 8 touchdowns on the year. I think that may have just been on the ground too, right? He's been sensational for the Chargers offense. And ever since he went down, it just kind of hasn't felt the same. We get him back, 2 weeks before the postseason. We get him back in this week where he can start building that momentum back, easing his way back in. He's got the Patriots and the Raiders to ease himself back in and get back to those numbers. That would be massive for the Chargers' playoff hopes going forward, especially in a game like this where, if this was his debut game, this is a great opponent. Patriots allow 130 yards per game on the ground. That is awesome. We got now a very nice complement piece in Gus Edwards that's really revved up. Great. J.K. Dobbins returning. I feel it in my bones. This would be a huge boost for the Chargers offense and likely a reason, if the Chargers win a postseason game at all, likely the reason that we do. J.K. Dobbins is a big part of this offense. The run game, obvious emphasis all off season long on how the Chargers want to operate. Him being back would be massive. But again, we don't know what's going to happen, right? His return would be huge, but there's also the chance that he doesn't return this game or maybe this season at all. Well, even if Gus doesn't return, I think Gus Edwards is finding momentum lately. That last game, you guys saw it. You guys remember it. That huge, was it a 50, 60-yard run by Gus Edwards? Of course, he pounded it in a couple of times as well. He's really finding his footing as the Chargers RB1 right now. Of course, you would expect it to be split once again when J.K. Dobbins returns. I would say either way, the Chargers run game is looking better. But just like I talked about with the passing confidence, I want to see that run confidence return as well. And I think right now we have a good indication that it will. Whether J.K. returns or Gus continues his momentum, we'll have to see. All right. And it feels like, again, even if Gus Edwards is the guy, last game versus the Broncos showed me exactly why I think we signed him, exactly what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, and I have a lot of confidence in that. Lastly, before we get out of here, again, another big thing that I want to continue in terms of the Chargers finding that momentum before going into the offseason, defense. Let's get that defense nice and rounded one more time. I know there's been absences, injuries. It's been kind of a streak of allowing more than 20 points per game. Let's get back to the 20 or less. Let's get ready for the postseason. Let's see what they can do. All right. So to wrap this video up in a nice bow, Merry Christmas, everybody. My score prediction for this one's going to be a good one. I got the Chargers winning 28 to the Patriots 12. Displaying a nice defensive effort by the Chargers and a bounce-back effort by the Chargers. An offensive day and display for Justin Herbert. In the run game, I would have to say if J.K. Dobbins comes back, you're going to see a nice display by the running backs. Should be a very, very fun one. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. I regret so much I will not be able to live stream the game coming up on Saturday. Maybe we'll try. I don't know. If anything, I'm going to try and make sure I'm present via Twitter and stuff to have some fun with you guys on this one, because this could be the game that the Chargers do clinch a playoff spot. And that would be a very huge accomplishment for Jim Harbaugh and his crew in just his first year as a Chargers head coach. Well, guys, we'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty, and Merry Christmas, my Bolt fam. Love you tremendously. From me and my family to yours, happy holidays, and Merry Christmas and everything that comes with the love and joy of this season, man. Big love to the Bolt fam.